So Steve Clarke has announced his Scotland squad for the Iceland and Liechtenstein fixtures for the friendlies in June. And while there's some notable inclusions, there's also some notable omissions that I wanted to discuss and how I feel about the squad in general for each of the players. So without further ado, let's get into it. We have Angus Gunn as the goalkeeper. You know, it's really between him and Craig Gordon for the number one spot. Gordon's not been called up, which is fair enough. He is getting on a bit in age, and you would say that we need to start planning for the future, as it were, and that was kind of Angus Gunn's purpose when he came in, so no real problems with Angus Gunn. Robbie McCrory is an interesting choice. You know, Liam Kelly's come in as Rangers number one at times and played a few games this season. And Robbie McCrory, statistically, has been one of the worst goalkeepers in the league this season, if you look at in terms of save percentage and goals conceded. So he's a bit of an interesting one. Kieran Slicker, haven't seen too much of him, but he comes with high praise, so I'm not too disheartened by that choice. Josh Doig, pretty pleased with that. Just won the league with Sassuolo. Young promising left back as well, so got no issues at all with his inclusion. The one I've got the most issue with is who's up next, Grant Hanley. He's not getting game time at Birmingham. He's just out of it. He's too old. He should not be selected in Scotland squads anymore. You know, whether or not we've got a lack of options in the centre-half area or not, Grant Hanley is not a better option than Ryan Porteous, for example, so I don't know what he's doing in the Scotland squad at this point. Jack Hendry, no complaints about that inclusion, to be fair. Max Johnson, good that he's in there. He should be getting more game time, in my opinion, when Aaron Hickey isn't fit, but we'll get on to Aaron Hickey in a bit. Scott McKenna, no issues with that. He's been playing well in Spain by all accounts. Nathan Patterson, of course, was kind of number one for a wee while. You know, I've got no complaints about Nathan Patterson. Tony Ralston, actually don't have any complaints about that. I know that he's not everybody's first choice, and he shouldn't be first choice, but this season for both Scotland and Celtic, he hasn't had a bad season when he's played. So out with the Euros, there was obviously that big mistake, but in the Scotland shirt. But other than that, he's not been bad, in my opinion. So I don't think he should be starting by any means, but I've not got a problem with him being included, especially when Aaron Hickey is unavailable. Andy Robertson, I mean, he's the captain. I've made my feelings known on Andy Robertson in the past. I don't think he's as good as people make him out to be at all. But he's the captain. He's always going to be included. John Souttar, not got a problem with that. He's got a mistake in him, of course. But you know, on his day when he's defending, he's one of the better defenders that we have on offer. And Kieran Tierney, yeah, he should be included in the squad whenever he's fit. He's the best left back we have available to us, and he's the best centre half we have available to us. Connor Barron, not got a problem with that. Especially, you know, given some midfield players, which we'll get to later on in the video, a chance is something that I am fully for. Whether he gets game time remains to be seen. Lewis Ferguson, I mean, should be in every Scotland squad anyway. He's the captain of Bologna. He's one of the better prospects we have. Billy Gilmore, same thing. Napoli might not get the same amount of game time as his Napoli counterpart Scott McTominay, who we'll get onto in a minute, but definitely one of the first names on the team sheet. Andy Irving, interesting inclusion. I haven't seen much of him, but by all accounts he comes highly recommended. John McGinn is John McGinn. He's always going to be involved as long as he's fit and playing well. Scott McTominay, again, one of the players of the year in Serie A this season as well. Might be about to win the league. He's a shoe-in. Lennon Miller, of course, included last time. Didn't get any minutes, so hopefully that changes this time around. And he should be in subsequent squads going forward. Shea Adams, you know, at times he's a wee bit hit and miss for Scotland, but by all accounts, had a pretty decent season in Italy, so there you go. Kieran Bowie, I'm happy with this one. Promising young prospect, and he's had a good end to the season with Hibs, so I think that's a well-deserved call-up there. Tommy Conway, he's had a good season with Middlesbrough. He's just yet to kind of turn it on in a Scotland shirt. George Hurst, I'm alright with this, but he was a little bit disappointing last time around in the Scotland shirt, not going to lie. Maybe this is the games to get his confidence up. And James Wilson, of course, called up last time, promising young prospects. So there is a couple of notable omissions that I do want to discuss before I give my overall final opinion on the squad. Starting off with Kenny McLean, finally not selected. Whether he's picked up a knock, I don't know, and I don't really care, but he's not in the squad, so that is a massive plus, and it should be the case going forward. as I said, he's a decent utility player to have, but given the fact that he was starting games on a consistent basis, not to say he was bad, but we do need to start bleeding in the new talent there. And Kenny McLean, no matter how well he's playing, should never be starting games over Lewis Ferguson when we've got him available. So I'm really happy that he's not been included. On to some players that are maybe unlucky not to have been included, particularly since they're friendlies, or maybe were never in with a chance in the first place. It's just a few names that I saw getting thrown around. So we start with Luke McCowan. I think he's unlucky to miss out. He's had a really strong first season with Celtic. He's the former Dundee captain, of course. And I think, if we hadn't called up 5 strikers, I think he would have probably been included in that. I just think I would have liked to have seen, we know what Scott McTominay can deliver. We know what John McGinn can deliver and Billy Gilmore. And if these were competitive fixtures, then you would want those guys in the team for sure. But I wanted the friendlies this time around to be used to give some guys that were on the fringes a chance to go, right, let's see what you could do. So we could have had a midfield three, for example, of Luke McCowan, Connor Barron and Lennon Miller, for example, or maybe some other options we'll get to in a second. But I think he is the one that's the most unlucky to miss out with the stats that he's put up this season in particular. So Luke McCowan, I think, is an unlucky omission. Another one is Lyall Cameron. He's had a good end to the season with Dundee. He's had a good couple of seasons with Dundee, in fairness, moving to Rangers in the summer. So I think, again, we could have and should have maybe used this squad as an opportunity to give some younger guys or people that are on the fringes a chance, which is what the majority of the people that are missing out here that I'm going to be mentioning could have been. But I think it would have been interesting to see how he would have got on in the Scotland jersey this time around in both. So it's a shame that he's missing out. One that's established in the squad, of course, when he's fully fit, he's Aaron Hickey. I thought he may have had a chance of being included, particularly since he's just come back to playing some football with I think it's the under-21s with Brentford, so this could have been a chance to get him back integrated in the setup after a long time out, but maybe he's just not quite ready and that's why he's missed out, but that's a notable omission for me, and I thought it prudent to include him. One of the shining lights for Hearts this season, James Penrice missing, I think, is a bit of a shame for him. We maybe could have seen a situation where Iceland, it was Doig, and Liechtenstein, it was Penrice, for example, given Tierney and Robertson the summer off. I think it's a reoccurring theme I've got here where I would have liked to have given a lot of fringe players a chance. I can understand why he's called up the top players. You want to keep kind of a consistency going in the camp. But I just think with these games in particular, it was the end of a long season. It's only a couple of games. I think you could have given some of these guys a chance. And James Penrice, with the season that he's had, I think it's a little bit disappointing that he hasn't at least been considered for the call-up. People could say it's because he's at Hearts, but we've got James Wilson in the squad. So, that argument's automatically out the window. And Shanklin missing out as well, who I haven't included in this. I can understand that based off his season, but he did get called up in the last one and he hadn't scored as many goals. So it is a bit of a strange one for me. I think Penrice, unlucky not to be included. Also unlucky not to be included potentially, I have seen his name get thrown around a fair bit, is Simon Murray. Age-wise, not one of the ones I'd have been looking to call up, but there was a lot of radio gossip about it with his goal return. Should we maybe be including him in the squad? I don't see why it would have hurt us to give him a wee call-up over the likes of maybe a Shea Adams, for example, who gets called up all the time, and just throw him out there and see what he could do in a Scotland shirt, but... And this one is not one of the ones that I'm too disappointed isn't included because of his age, unfortunately. For him, we need to be looking as much to the future as possible, in my opinion. So this one, not as bothersome for me that he's missed out. So, final verdict on the Scotland squad selected by Steve Clarke. I mean, overall, it's kind of... I don't know if disappointing is the word. I just think it's lacked creativity a little bit from him. Yes, there's a few included in there that maybe, okay, great that he's included them. The likes of Kieran Bowie, for example, who's getting his call up. Obviously, some of them got called up last time, like James Wilson, for example, and George Hurst. Andy Irvine being included there, Connor Barron getting a recall as well, Josh Doig getting a recall. But, some decisions in there, Grant Hanley in particular, and Robbie McCrory, I'm not really understanding that. So it'll be interesting. I'm still going to watch the friendlies, but I would have preferred to have seen a bit more rotation. Let me know what you guys think if you've got an opinion on it. Thanks for watching. If you are new around here, please subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.